This audio is brought to you by Muslim Central. Please consider donating to help cover our running costs and future projects by visiting www.muslimcentral.com/donate.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 125, Surah Yusuf, ayah number 58 to 87. What did we learn in the last part of the story that we learned yesterday? Where did we end? That Yusuf a.s. was taken out of the prison and he was appointed as the finance minister, as the one who was in charge of all of the storehouses. And this was a position that was very unique because he wasn't answerable to anyone. He was independent. Because generally what happens, even in the government, if a person has a high position, he is answerable to someone or the other. Or there is someone or the other who can remove him from power. But the kind of position that Yusuf a.s. was given was makeen. It was firmly established. And no one could come and remove him. So he had a lot of authority in that position. Now some people, they were wondering what happened with the wife of Aziz afterwards. Because there is this very common understanding amongst people. They take the story of Yusuf a.s. as a love story and they want to romanticize it. And because of that, they say that somehow or the other, Yusuf a.s. and Zulaykha, they got together. However, there is no evidence behind that. You may have heard about this, you may have read about this, but there is no evidence behind that. We don't find this detail from the Qur'an, nor do we find it from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Because there are some people who say that Zulaykha, you can tell from her words that she repented. She changed so much, she became so righteous, she became so pious. And her husband Aziz, he did not have any ghira, he did not have any kind of sense of responsibility or possessiveness for his wife. So she left him and eventually her and Yusuf a.s. they got married and they lived happily ever after. However, there is no evidence behind that. This is just people who want that one person who loves the other, somehow or the other, they want that person to join the other person, get into a relationship with them. But however, there is no evidence behind that. So Yusuf a.s., when he was made in charge, when he was made the authority over all of the storehouses, what happened then? Remember that Yusuf a.s. told the king of Egypt about the next 15 years, what was going to happen. The first 7 years, there was going to be a lot of produce in Egypt. And they were told by Yusuf a.s. that they must use as well as save. And the next 7 years were going to be of famine. And remember that the famine that struck, it wasn't just limited to Egypt, but rather it reached elsewhere as well. Because remember at that time, people would trade a lot. Just as today, people trade a lot, especially food. If, for example, in this country, during the winter, you can eat strawberries, you wonder where they're coming from. Certainly not from anywhere around here, because it's extremely cold. So definitely it's coming from a far-off area. And even at that time, people would trade food. They would go from one place to the other to purchase their food. Because in one place, everything could not possibly be grown. So this drought, it didn't just hit Egypt, but it hit the surrounding areas as well, including Canaan. And that is where the father of Yusuf a.s. used to live with the rest of his brothers. So basically the home country of Yusuf a.s. And the people at that time in Egypt as well as all around Egypt, they knew that in Egypt there is a lot of food. You can go and buy food from there. So the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they came to Egypt to buy food. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف. And the brothers of Yusuf a.s. came. Where? To Egypt, to buy food, to buy provisions. فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. So they entered upon him. Meaning they entered into his presence. Because he was the minister. He was the one who was in charge. So anyone who would come to buy food, they would have to go through him. So just imagine the brothers of Yusuf a.s., They came and they entered into his presence, فَعَرَفَهُمْ, and then he recognized them. Immediately he recognized them. And remember, irfan is to recognize something by its signs. How did he recognize them? Obviously, when he left them, he was still a young child. He was about 8 or 10, according to some 12, according to some 17. Whatever his age was, but he was still young. But the rest of his brothers, they were older than him, except for Binyamin, who was still an infant. So his brothers were older than him. So for him, it was very easy to recognize. Think about it. It was very easy for him to recognize them. And besides, it was 10 of them. And on top of that, they had come from Canaan. And with their names as well, he was very sure that they were his brothers. عَرَفَهُمْ, he recognized them. وَهُمْ, but they, meaning the brothers, lahu, for him, for Yusuf a.s., they were munkirun, ones who could not identify him, ones who could not recognize him. Munkirun is a plural of munkir, and munkir is the one who does inkar. Inkar is to deny something, to reject something, and it is also failure to recognize something. So وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, they failed to recognize him. Why did they fail to recognize him? Because it had been a long time since they last saw him. And the last time they had seen him, he was still a young boy. Now he was a man. Like for example, if you see someone who is an adult and you see their picture when they were a child, just because they tell you, no, this is really me, then you can find some resemblance between the two. Isn't it so? So just imagine they had not seen him for many, many years. They were unable to recognize him. And besides, they were not even expecting to see him up there in that position. They could have never imagined, never at all, that he could have gained that position, because where did they throw him? Into the well. Possibly thinking that he would die, or possibly thinking that somebody was going to pick him up, treat him as their slave. Allahu A'lam, where he would end up. They never imagined that he would become the finance minister of Egypt. So they didn't recognize him. Muhammad ibn Ishaq, he said that after Yusuf a.s. became the minister of Egypt, and the 7 years of abundance passed, then came the 7 years of drought that struck all areas of Egypt. And the drought, it also reached the area of Canaan, where Prophet Yaqub a.s. and his children resided. And Yusuf a.s. efficiently guarded the people's harvest and collected it. And what he collected became a great fortune for the people. And this also permitted Yusuf a.s. to give gifts to the people who sought his aid from various areas, who came to buy food and provisions for their families. Because in other lands, people had not saved. But in Egypt, they had saved because of the dream that the king had. So this was the position that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had rewarded Yusuf a.s. with. This high position where he was not only managing, but he was also able to dispense of that food, of that provision, however he willed. He could have sold it, he could have given it as a gift. And because of this reason, he was known to be very generous, to be very just. He was famous as a very generous person, a very just person, because of which people, they came to him from all over Egypt and the surrounding areas. Why? Because he was known for his generosity. So when the brothers came, Yusuf a.s. recognized them, but they did not recognize him. It is said that Yusuf a.s., whenever people would come from places outside of Egypt to get food from him, he wouldn't just sell the food to them. Sometimes he would give it for free. And he would also provide accommodation for them. He would also take them in as guests. So this is why people from all over were encouraged to come. The brothers of Yusuf a.s. were also encouraged to come over here. And what happened then? وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ, and when he had furnished them, بِجَهَازِهِمْ, with their supplies. Jahaza from the root letters, Jim, Ha, Zai. And jahaz is basically luggage that is prepared for a traveler. Such luggage that is prepared, that is packed for who? A traveler. That a person is going to take with himself for a journey. So when he had fully prepared their equipment, their gear, their baggage. Meaning, when he had given them their measure of food in full, everything was packed. قَالَ, he said, "U'tuni, you all come to me. بِأَخِلْ لَكُمْ, with a brother who is for you." Meaning, your brother. Bring me your brother as well. Which brother of yours? Min abikum, from your father. It is said that Yusuf a.s., he would only give provisions per head. He would only give provisions, how? Per head. So for example, if one man comes and he wants provision for his family, he would be given a camel load of food. Only one camel, not more than that. Why? Why do you think so? So that everybody could get. Like for example, sometimes you go to the grocery store and perhaps there is a deal on, let's say, diapers, sometimes on toilet rolls, different things. Sometimes water bottles. But what's the sign over there? 2 per family. Only 1 per family, not more than that. Because if someone comes and buys everything, then what's going to happen to the rest of the people? So similarly, Yusuf a.s. would only give 1 camel load to who? 1 person. So when these people came, the brothers of Yusuf a.s., the 10 of them, they were given only 10 camel loads. Why? Because only they had come. Yaqub a.s. had not sent Binyamin. He had not sent Binyamin. Although they had requested that the share of Binyamin be given, but Yusuf a.s. did not give it. So he said, if you want that your brother should be given your share, then bring him. Bring me your brother next time that you come, who is from your father, meaning your half-brother, and make sure you come to me. Because أَلَا تَرَوْنَ, don't you all see that أَنِّي, indeed I, أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ, I fully give the measure. Meaning I don't reduce anything from it. I fully give the measure, so make sure you come to me. وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ, and I am also the best of those who host. Those who host guests. The word al-munzilin is a plural of munzil. And munzil is one who makes someone come down. One who makes the other descend. This is the literal meaning of the word munzil. One who sends down, one who makes the other descend. So, the word munzil is also used for a host. Why? Because previously when people would travel, and even today, they go on their vehicles. They go on their cars, they go on the plane, on a bus, whatever. Previously they would go on their animals. And when they would arrive at the host's house, they wouldn't get off the car, they wouldn't get off the animal themselves and walk up to the door and knock. No. The host would be there waiting for them. And he would help them come down from their animal. And this is a way of showing a lot of generosity towards your guest. So munzil is also used for a host. So don't you see that I gave the measure in full, I don't reduce anything at all, and at the same time, I am the best host. Now again, is Yusuf a.s. praising himself? Is it self-projection? No. This is just that he's telling them, why wouldn't you come to me? You have no reason not to come to me again. You must come to me again. So he tells them, if you bring your brother next time, he will also receive a full share. فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي, and then he warns them, he threatens them, to make sure that they bring him. فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ, if you do not bring him to me, فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي, then there is no measure for you near me. Meaning you will not get anything from me. وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ, and do not even approach me. What does it mean by this? If you do not bring your brother with you next time that you come, then remember that you will not get anything from me. You will not get any provisions. Neither for you, nor for him. Because I will assume that you are lying. You are saying that you have a brother, because of whom you want an extra camel load. And if you don't bring him the next time, then I will assume that you're lying. This is how I will perceive what you're doing, what you're saying. So if you really want more food from me, then you have to bring your brother. And if you don't bring him, وَلَا تَقْرَبُونِ, don't even approach me. Don't even think about coming to me. Meaning you shall be completely denied the measure, and you will not be allowed to come near me. So over here we see that he sets a condition for them for taking the provisions in the future. And what is that condition? That they have to bring their brother. He tells them, he encourages them, and at the same time he also threatens them. قَالُوا, they said, سَنُرَاوِدُ, soon we will attempt to dissuade anhu, about him, abahu, his father. The brothers of Yusuf a.s., what did they say? That سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ, nurawidu from the root letters, ra, waw, dal. And rawada, yurawidu, what does it mean? What does it mean? وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا. What does rawada mean? To seduce someone, how? That they don't have the same intention as yours. Remember? There is a constant back and forth in this, meaning the other person does not have the same intention as yours, and you try again and again to make them have the same irada as yours. Because remember, ra, waw, dal, irada is also from the same root. So, sanurawidu, meaning we will attempt that he also has the same intention as us. So it is to make someone change their mind, to make someone change their mind. How? By attempting many, many times. Like for example, a child wants to go with his friend. The father says no. What does the child say? Dad, please, I'll do this, I'll do that. Let me go. He tries over the breakfast, doesn't work. He tries over the phone, doesn't work. He tries over the dinner table, it doesn't work. He tries before going to bed, doesn't work. And eventually, it works. This is what rawada yurawidu means. To not give up until the other person changes his mind. Until he has the same irada as yours. So they say that we're going to attempt to dissuade anhu, about him, abahu, his father. وَإِنَّا, and indeed we, لَفَاعِلُونَ, surely ones who do. Look at the way they talk about their father. That we are going to attempt to dissuade him. This word that they're using is very disrespectful. You don't treat your parents like that. If your parents say no, you should accept it as a no. If they say yes, then you have to accept it as a yes. You cannot constantly beg them and harass them until they give up and they accept what you have to say. This is not correct behavior. But the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they said that we will make sure that he listens to us. And the statement, it also shows that their father did not trust them anymore. He did not trust them before either. But even at this point, he did not trust them. So over here we see that the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they convince him that we're definitely going to try to bring Binyamin with us the next time. Remember that the famine was how long? 7 years. So this means that they would have to come several times to buy food. They couldn't get more than one camel load. One thing is that they would just come and buy everything at once and go. They would buy their rations for the next 7 years. But they couldn't do that. They would have to come again and again. So Yusuf a.s. knew that they have to come again to buy food. And he wanted to see his brother. He really wanted to see his brother. So this is why he makes sure that he tells them, he threatens them that they must bring the brother. وَقَالَ, and he said, لِفِتْيَانِهِ, to his servants. Who said to his servants? Yusuf a.s. said to his servants. And fityan is a plural of fata, which is used for a young servant, a young boy, a slave. So he said to his young slave boys that اجعلوا, put, بضاعتهم, their merchandise, في رحالهم, in their saddlebags. The word بضاعة from the root letters, ba, ضاد, عين. And we did this word earlier as well. وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً. They concealed him as a merchandise. And bidara is basically such property that is set aside for either sale or investment. Meaning you don't use it. Like for example, you have some money. One is that you go buy food from it. What is this? You are using it for yourself. for your own expenses. The other is that you take that money and you go and put it in the bank, or you go and invest it in some business. This is what? This money becomes bida'ah. When money or property is not used, it is set aside. Why? For sale or for investment. So for example, sale. Imagine that a person has an appliance store. Now, the appliances that he has for sale, he's not going to go use them. Like for example, one day he wants to microwave his food. He goes in, turns on one of the microwaves and he uses it for himself. Can he do that? No. If he uses it, it's not going to go. It's not going to have the same value. Once the box has been opened, it's going to lose its value. So, bida'ah is something that is set aside either for sale or for investment. So, the bida'ah over here refers to the money or the stuff, whatever that the brothers of Yusuf a.s. had brought with them from Canaan to Egypt to buy food with. It is said that it was in the form of some dirham. It was coins. It was money that they had brought. So all of that money that they had brought to buy food with it, Yusuf a.s. told his servants, put this money back into their bags, secretly, without even telling them. Secretly, without even telling them. And put it where? In rihal, in their bags. The word rihal is the plural of rahl, rahalan. And rahl is used for a bag, a camel saddle. And figuratively, this word is also used for luggage. And basically anything in which goods are packed. Anything in which goods are packed. So for example, it could be a pouch, it could be a bag, it could be a sack, it could be a suitcase, it could be a box. Anything in which goods are packed. Just imagine at that time, they're taking camels which are loaded with food. And along with food, they also have their personal belongings. Obviously, they must not have kept them open. They must have packed them in something. They must have tied it up with something. So he told them, put this money into their saddlebags. لَعَلَّهُمْ, so that they يَعْرِفُونَهَا, they recognize it. The same money, put it back, so that when they go home, they will recognize it as their own bida'ah, as their own money that they had given. إِذَا انْقَلَبُوا, when they return, إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ, to their families. And when they will see that money return to them, what will they do? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, perhaps they will return. So this was another attempt that Yusuf a.s. made to make sure that the brothers come back. And when they come back, who do they bring with them? Binyamin. Now the question is, why did Yusuf a.s. put this money back into their bags? Why did he do that? How did he expect that if he put this money back, they would return? Why? Because we see that the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they were not that honest. If they were honest, they wouldn't have lied to their father. Why did he expect that? Firstly, we see that he had a good supposition about them. That after all, they were the children of who? A prophet of Allah. They must have some khair in them. When they will go back and they will open up their luggage, they will discover that their merchandise has been returned to them, their money has been returned to them. They will come back to Egypt. Why? To return that money. Like for example, it's possible that you buy something from the store and you think that you didn't really pay enough. But you don't really bother to check. When you go home, you open the receipt and you're like, this is not right. They missed out one or two objects that you bought. So then one case is that you're like, forget it. It's okay. It was their mistake, not my fault. And the other is that no, you go back to the store out of honesty and you pay the money. You give them the money that they deserve. So he expected this behavior from who? From his brothers. Which is why he did this. He had good supposition about them. Secondly, he expected that they would return because he thought it is drought season. And when the season is like that, there is no produce. Because of that, there is no business. Because of that, there are no earnings. So he feared that if they go back home and after some time, they don't have enough money to come back, then they won't come. So he really wanted them to come back, which is why he put their money back into their bags, so that the lack of money, the shortage of money, would not prevent them from coming again. Thirdly, he did this to make them more grateful, to make them feel more grateful and happy with their experience that they had in Egypt. Just as when you go to a particular store, if you're treated really well, and they give you points on top of that, don't you want to go back there again? You do. Like, for example, you go somewhere, you go to a store, and they give you, like, for example, you go to Canadian Tire, and they give you Canadian Tire money. Right? Why do they do that? To make sure that you come back again. Right? Similarly, you go to a particular store, they say, why didn't you make this card with us? Every time you buy, you can get points. And when you have collected these many points, you can purchase a $10 gift for free. You can get a $10 product for free. So this is one way of keeping your customers regular. When they have had a good experience with you, when they are grateful. This is why Yusuf a.s. put their money back, so that when they go home, they'll be very grateful, they will have had a good experience, and they will come back. Another reason is given, that Yusuf a.s. was just being good towards them. He did ihsan towards them. He was maintaining ties of kinship, and he returned their merchandise to them. And he also gave them the measure of their food. Just as, for example, if you're selling something, and your best friend comes, or your relative comes, what will you do? Either you will give them a discount. If you don't give them a discount, you will give it for free. If they insist on paying, what will you do? Secretly, perhaps you will put the money in their bag. You will do something like that, because you feel bad taking the money from them. So Yusuf a.s. was also their brother, and he wanted to maintain ties of kinship with them. He wanted to do ihsan towards them. This is why he returned this money to them. Now, what's the lesson in this for us? Yusuf a.s. at this point, he could have been very harsh towards them, because he was up there, he had a very high position, and these brothers, they were desperate before him. He could have easily taken revenge from them. He could have easily punished them. He could have easily been harsh towards them, refused them, charged them extra. He could have done that. But he didn't. What does this teach us? That when we are in a position to take revenge from the other, what do we need to do? We need to do ihsan. Just as the Prophet ﷺ as well, when he went to Makkah and he conquered Makkah, what did he say? لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. There is no blame upon you today. So Yusuf a.s. as well, in this position, he did not do anything wrong towards them just to teach them a lesson. Rather, he was generous towards them. Because when a person is generous in this position, then what happens? He wins the heart of the other. With your generosity, with your forgiveness, with your kind behavior, you can win the heart of the other. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that idfa' billati hiya ahsan. Repel evil by that deed which is better. Because when you will do that, فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةً كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. When you will do that, then the person between him and you was enmity, he will become like a very close, loving friend. So this is the way of winning the hearts of people. By being generous towards them, by being forgiving towards them, in a position where you can take revenge from them. فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا. Then when they returned, إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, to their father, قَالُوا, they said, يَا أَبَانَا, O our father, مُنِعَ مِنَّا الْكَيْلِ. The measure has been prevented from us, has been denied to us. Meaning, for future, we will not be allowed to purchase any more food from Egypt. We will not be allowed to purchase any more food from Egypt. Muni'a. Muni'a from the root letters Mim, Nun, Ain. And Mana'a is to stop, to prevent. Meaning, if we don't take our brother with us, we will not be allowed to make any further purchases. فَأَرْسِلْ, so send, مَعَنَا, with us, أَخَانَا, our brother. Look at how they speak to him now. Our brother. Not your son. What do they say? Our brother. Before, what did they say? سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ أَبَاهُ. Not abana. Now what do they say? أَخَانَا. Our brother. نَقْتَلْ. We will obtain standard measure. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And indeed we will guard him. Surely we are for him ones who guard. We will protect him. The word naqtal is from the root letters kaf, ya, lam as well. The word kail. And remember the difference between kail and wazn? What's the difference? Wazn is by weight and kail is by volume or by length, or for example through a measuring tool, like for example a measuring cup. So naqtal, iktiyal, is to take full measure of grain. So naqtal, we will receive full measure of grain if we take our brother with us. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And surely we will protect him, we will guard him. Don't worry, we will take care of him. So send our brother with us so that we can get more grain for all of us as well as for him. But what did Yaqub a.s. say? قال, he said, هَلْ آمَنُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ. Should I trust you about him? Amanu from the root letters Hamza, Mim, Noon, from the word aman, which is to feel safe from someone, to feel secure. So should I feel safe? Should I feel secure? Should I trust you about him? Illa, except, kama, just as, amintukum, I trusted you, ala, about, akhihi, his brother. His brother meaning? Yusuf a.s. Meaning, should I trust you despite the fact that you failed in your promise with regards to preserving Yusuf a.s. and protecting him? Should I trust you in the same way that I trusted you with regards to Yusuf a.s.? When I trusted you with regards to Yusuf a.s., you failed. Should I trust you again? Should I make the same mistake again? فَاللَّهُ, so Allah, خَيْرٌ, He is best, حَافِظًا, as a protector. Because the brothers of Yusuf a.s., what did they say? وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We will guard him. What does he say? You cannot guard. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا. He is the best protector. And another reason why He says this is because He realized that it was necessary for them to go. And if a condition had been set that Binyamin has to come, then even if they go, they will not be able to get any food. So He realized it was necessary for him to go. Therefore, He said, Allah will guard. You cannot guard, Allah will guard. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. What does this ayah teach us? This ayah teaches us what tawakkul is. And what bad reputation is. First of all, bad reputation. When a person does something wrong once, people do not trust him anymore. Even if he has a good intention. Previously, when they asked their father with regards to Yusuf a.s., they didn't have a good intention. They wanted to throw him into the well. But they said, let him go, he will have fun, he will play. Let him go. But they didn't have a good intention. And they made a major mistake. How? By throwing their brother into the well. But this time, they needed to take their brother with them. But because they had failed their promise the first time, their father did not trust them again. Remember the story of the boy who cried wolf? That when you develop a reputation of lying, when you develop a reputation of failing your promises, then people don't trust you anymore. Even if you have a very sincere intention. And the same thing happened with the brothers of Yusuf a.s. Secondly, we learn from this about what tawakkul is. That Yaqub a.s., what does he say? That I cannot let him go with you. Because I cannot trust you. But then he realizes that no, it was necessary for Binyamin to go. And in the following ayat, we will see as to how he makes a plan to ensure that Binyamin comes back, that Binyamin is safe, and the rest of the brothers are also safe. So there is planning. But at the same time, what do we see in this ayah? reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not upon himself, not upon the rest of his sons. What does he say? فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا. Allah is the best protector. Even though you are so many in number, even though you are very strong, you are all adults, still, you are not capable of guarding him. Because you are only human beings. Who can guard him? Only Allah can. This is what tawakkul is. That you make your plan, but at the end, who do you rely upon? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot trust upon people. You cannot rely upon them. You cannot depend upon them. Why? Because people are weak. If people cannot protect themselves, then how can they protect others? If people cannot manage their work themselves, then how can they manage the work of others? It's not possible. So we see this over here, that he is trusting upon who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
This audio is brought to you by Muslim Central. Please consider donating to help cover our running costs and future projects by visiting www.muslimcentral.com.